So last week, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, did a press conference where she pushed war propaganda. I mean, there's really no other way to describe it. She was talking about Iran and, oh my goodness, they're a threat, and look at the things that they're doing, and they're destabilizing the region, which, by the way, is hilarious to make that argument against Iran when look at what Israel's doing. You know, occupation, apartheid, it's illegal under international law. Look at what Saudi Arabia is doing. They just fucking kidnapped the prime minister of Lebanon recently. What? You want to talk about destabilizing the region? Look what they're doing to Yemen. But I digress because I'm going to come back to these points in a little bit. But at this event, she's standing in front of like shellings from weapons that she acts are, oh, this is from Iran. But this really had the distinct feel of like Colin Powell at the UN from back in the day when he was holding up the tube of uranium going, we got to go fight Saddam. Look at this. Look at what I got here. This is from Saddam. We got to go fight him. What are we going to do? That's exactly what this felt like. So it felt like pushing for war with Iran in the same way that the U.S. pushed for war with Iraq. And we know how that worked out. And we know how many lies were told to us then. But the propaganda was so shitty this time that even the New York Times, who were cheerleading the war in Iraq, they were like, oh, whoa, pump your brakes here. That's how shitty the propaganda was from Nikki Haley and the Trump administration. So let's watch a short video here of the New York Times debunking their nonsense.
These are the recovered pieces of a missile fired by Houthi militants from Yemen into Saudi Arabia. The missile's intended target was the civilian airport in Riyadh.
At no time was I told that analysts from the Defense Intelligence Agency were able to actually inspect any of the locations. Nobody said that they went to Yemen, to the places where the anti-tank guided missile or the drone were recovered. They did not inspect the impact crater at the King Khalid International Airport. The answers I got like that just seemed to have no information behind them, the more skeptical I became, and the more insistent I was in asking even more questions, because one thing I noticed was that some information was conspicuous by its absence. And so I started asking questions. I started asking each of these analysts very directly, where were they found? Do you have a latitude and longitude? And the answer was always no. I'd say, okay, well, do you know when it was used? And the answer was no. I'd say, well, where do you get your information from? They said, from the Saudis. And so that was basically a constant refrain. The reason I'm asking those questions is that they go to the heart of the government's claim that Iran was violating sanctions and violating United Nations resolutions. Absolutely nobody has any doubt that Iran has provided weapons to Houthis in Yemen. What the United States is arguing is, did Iran violate certain sanctions and certain UN resolutions? And those have a time component to them. So what I want to figure out is, were the arms transferred before those resolutions and sanctions went into place, or did they happen after? Because if it happened before, then there's really no violation. It's simply just more evidence of what's already known, and that being that Iran has supplied these weapons to Houthis. For instance, when I was looking at the UAV, an analyst explained to me all the different ways it could be configured. And so then I just asked a simple question. I said, okay, well, what about this one, the one you're showing me? How is it configured? There's kind of a pause, and I said, well, we don't know. I said, well, okay, did it have a warhead? Was, an explosive warhead? And they said, we don't know. They said, this is just the way the Saudis handed it to us. I said, so you don't know anything else about this. You don't know where they found it, when they found it. And they said, no. At multiple places, there were little placards that just said simply, on loan from Saudi Arabia. So I imagine at some point they're going to go back. I began to have less and less and less confidence that there was really anything here that was news.
So let me give you a little more backstory here so you get a sense of how absurd the argument is from the Trump administration and Nikki Haley. They're making this big stink about, oh my goodness, Iran, they're so aggressive. All the things that they're doing. I mean, look at the thing behind me. See, this is weapons that we got that were fired because of Iran into Saudi Arabia. And I mean, well, we got to do something. We got to act, right? I mean, I think we got to act. Don't we have to act? I think we have to act. Don't you think we have to act? Well, what they're using to make their case is a missile that allegedly was fired from Houthi militants in Yemen at a Saudi airport. Now, what are they leaving out? Oh, I don't know. Maybe the fact that there's never been proof of Iran funding the Houthis. Now, they make that assumption because, hey, the Houthis are Shia, Iran is Shia, and there's like a proxy war going on in Yemen between the Sunnis and the Shias. So we think Iran is funding the Houthis, but they don't have any proof of that. And then instead of blaming the Houthis for doing that act, because that's who did it, they go, no, we got Iran destabilizing everything. And then they don't tell you, even if the Houthis did that, which is questionable because of the source is Saudi Arabia, who's obviously trying to get us to do their dirty work for them and be more involved militarily in the region and fight Iran as they've been trying to get us to do for a while. Well, the Houthis are responding to the relentless bombing campaign of Saudi Arabia. How on earth do they really think they're going to make this case and spin it? Anybody who has a basic understanding of what's happening in the Middle East, particularly in Yemen, is going to go, the fuck are you talking about? So Saudi Arabia gets to bomb the shit out of Yemen nonstop. They've bombed hospitals. They've bombed schools. They've bombed open-air markets. They're using cluster bombs that we sold them, which is, by the way, illegal under international law. They've killed over 10,000 people. They've killed women and children. They're blockading the country. The country's fucking starving to death. Literally, millions and millions of people are starving. They're not allowing in basic medicine. People are dying of cholera, which is a totally preventable thing, but they're not even allowing in the pills that would cure them. So Saudi Arabia gets to do that to Yemen, no outrage. Houthis in Yemen fire one fucking missile at the people who are obliterating their country and killing their civilians and blockading and starving people to death. And what does the U.S. do? Oh, we must do a press conference and look at the aggression. Look at the aggression of Iran. It's unbelievable. Oh, we should probably do something about this. Are you fucking kidding me? If anything, it should be Iran doing the press conference, showing the endless mountains of evidence and proof of Saudi Arabia massacring civilians, of the United States continuing to fund them and arm them despite knowing how these weapons are being used to kill civilians left and right and to blockade the fucking country. But they flipped the truth exactly on its head. This is fucking Orwell 101, man. And why on earth? So, good job there from the New York Times reporters really pushing and asking really? Okay, so this is from Saudi Arabia, so what's the latitude and longitude of where this attack happened? We don't know. Well, can you give me any more information? Nope, we got nothing. It really is unconscionable. And then for the U.S. to clutch their pearls over Houthi rebels responding to endless Saudi aggression massacring civilians, and not giving a fuck about the civilians who are being massacred in Yemen with our money and our weapons, it just shows they're lying. That's what this is. I want everybody to know that. This isn't like, oh, Kyle, they just have a different view of the world. No, this is them lying. This is them lying. They understand that Saudi Arabia is the aggressor. They understand that Saudi Arabia is massacring civilians and starving people to death. They understand this is the Houthis responding with one fucking ineffectual missile, if indeed it happened, and they don't care. They don't care. And what this goes to show you is how utterly made up our concern for human rights is. Because, listen, it's just a fucking mask. It's a mask that allows us to go around the world and jack people's natural resources and continue to be the sole superpower on the planet while still telling ourselves pretty little fairy tales at night. Like, oh, no, when we go to Iraq and jack the oil, it's because we care about human rights and freedom and justice. Yeah, when we stay in Afghanistan to take the minerals And to be involved with the opium, it's just because we care about, we don't want the fucking Taliban we want to beat the religious fundamentalists and give people freedom. When we back Israel, no matter what they do, even though they're doing apartheid and occupation and illegal settlements, it's because we care about the justice and the freedom and we back 73% of the world's dictatorships. We're talking brutal dictatorships that torture people, have an iron grip on power, kill civilians, and then we turn around and feign concern. Oh, look at the violence that was done with this missile that maybe not. It came into Saudi Arabia from Houthis who were just responding to aggression from Saudi Arabia. Oh, the humanitarian crisis. It's unbelievable. We should probably do something about it. No. They're such fucking liars. It's unreal, man. They're such liars. Anybody who understands what's going on in Yemen right now knows that the U.S. flipped the situation on its head. You know, they're pretending like, well, clearly Iran is the operative problem. What? No, the people who you're arming and backing and watching as they violate international law every fucking day using illegal cluster bombs, killing civilians, starving a country to death, they're the fucking problem. But you won't admit it. Because, again, you don't care about human rights, and you're a bunch of disgusting liars. And you wonder why, at the end of the day, hey, polls show that the overwhelming majority of people in the world view the U.S. as the biggest threat to peace. So they ask about every country, hey, who's the biggest threat to world peace? Is it North Korea? Is it fucking Pakistan? Is it India? Because they have nuclear weapons, and they've been at each other's throats for a long time. You know, is it Iraq? Is it Russia? Aggressive Russia. Is it them? The polls consistently show the U.S. is the biggest threat to world peace. Why? Because of this fucking spectacle you just saw. It looks like they're doing propaganda to try to do another illegal war, to do a regime change in Iran. By the way, we overthrew their government in 1953. We overthrew their government. We got rid of Mohammed Mossadegh because he wanted to nationalize the oil industry and give the money to his own people. We said, we've been jacking your oil for a long time. Iran had a deal with the West where we get to take your oil. It was Britain and the U.S. So the Mohammed Mossadegh got in power, and he's like, no, I'm going to change that. And the U.S. said, can't allow that. The CIA did a coup, overthrew him, put the Shah into power, who brought that oil deal back. So we overthrew their government once, and then now it looks like they're ramping up to try to do it again. And they're going to give again with the bullshit fucking veneer, the facade of, no, we're only doing it because of human rights, because Iran, look at how aggressive they are in Yemen. Don't worry about the Saudis. Don't worry about the Saudis. They have to be right because they're our allies, so they're right by definition. But oh my God, we're going to have to do something about this. When you know all the facts and you watch it unfold, it feels like a bad movie unfolding in real life, because that's what it is.